Travel nursing can bring you to places you've never been before. Tell us your story.
Hi, it's Rita at the Travel Nurse Channel once again, Thursday afternoon, the 19th, a little after 2, sorry about that. And I'll be here till 3. And let's make sure if you want to say hello, make a comment, have a question, you can do so because we are live on Facebook today, Thursday, between 2 and 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and on Tuesdays between 2 and 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So anytime you have a question or a comment or a subject you want to discuss, we can do that. I can answer questions. If I don't have the answer immediately, I'll get back to you during the next broadcast. So I hope you like that little commercial. I love that little commercial. I do believe we're going to come out with another one, but that's what we have for the moment. And I think she's so cute. She actually reminds me of an actress. If any of you have seen Nurse Jackie, not your average nurse, excuse me. I've been doing a lot of house cleaning, getting ready for Thanksgiving and Christmas, a little bit of Christmas, a lot of harvest. I love harvest time. But digging out the old boxes out of my garage, it's dusty. So yeah, that nurse reminds me of an actress on Nurse Jackie who's just so sweet and admires Nurse Jackie so much. And Nurse Jackie is seasoned and smart, but she is a big fat liar and a drug addict apparently. So enough about that. I didn't really have a lot of time to research in the last couple of days since Tuesday. So I thought I'd just kind of tell you stories because I became a nurse a longer time ago in the 70s. I got my RN license on July 7th, 1977. My gosh, that just seems incredibly long ago. And began working right away and had many, many experiences. So I thought I'll just talk to you about some of the, kind of the thrown into the water at the deep end, at the cold end, and how you manage I know in 2020, where we are now, it is a different world. It is not, there's so much more technical things needed from nurses. There's so much very acute situations, whether it's a critical care or whether it's a med surge or whether it's a skilled nursing. People are almost never have one issue. They have multiple issues. So it is a different world than when I started. My clinical, let's see, it's 2020. When was I last clinical? I want to say about at least 5 years ago, before since I actually practiced nursing clinically. Although I've been a manager and a director and all of that for many, many years with nurses in the clinical setting. So I've been connected forever, but hands-on myself taking care of patients was probably back in 2015 or 16. And then, of course, my mom had a stroke 9 years ago. So that, slowed me down as far as how many jobs I could do, running a nursing agency and then being a clinical manager and then making sure my mom got the care she needed, particularly in those early months and year, about the first 2 years of her very, very large stroke that she did not recover from the stroke, but she recovered a good life. And at 91, she is an amazing gal. She had a left hemi Oh dear. Oh dear. I have a little stool under my desk and I pulled a wire out. I hope that we're live again. Yeah, it says we're live. So sorry about that hiccup. Where was I? I was talking about my mom's stroke and how it kind of cut down on my clinical time. But one of the last times that I was a clinical nurse was when I was doing interventional radiology. I was consciously sedating patients for a variety of procedures, interventional radiology, and sometimes the cardiac cath lab. And sometimes we did it under fluoroscopy, and sometimes we did it under with a CAT scan machine. Just all different kinds of radiology that was used for all different kinds of procedures, from things that had to do with the head and neck and the thyroid, to the breast, to the lung, to every part of your body besides the heart. And then the heart was left to the cardiac cath lab, which I did go into as well. And we did pre-procedure, procedure, and post-procedure. So whoever was in charge would decide where they wanted you that day. And good times, lots and lots of important work being done. And I love that position because I really was hands-on with my patient. We had wonderful techs and wonderful interventional radiology doctors and equipment. For the most part, the equipment worked very well and had a lot of good outcomes. I would say maybe a little more than half of our patients were outpatients, but the other were coming in through the ER or coming in through the ICU or coming, from another unit to have their procedure done. And yeah, so everything had a beginning and an end pretty much in my unit, in the interventional radiology unit, whether it was the pre-procedure, the procedure, or the post-procedure. It was sort of tidy in a way that we could have a beginning, a middle, and an end. And then your connection, if they were outpatient, your connection ended a few days later when you made a follow-up phone call to see how they were doing. So, so that was some great experiences there. Those positions, particularly the cardiac cath lab, there's so much light shining in my face, but this is not a real broadcast studio. This is my little office at home. Maybe if I sit back, I'll be a little less glare on my face. What did I say? Those procedures had a beginning and an end. We got to follow up with our patients. Yeah, so what I started to say, I know. Travel nurses can make a great income. There are a lot of things, we've talked about them in other videos, ways to make more money as far as non-taxable money and completion bonuses and so forth. So things that aren't necessarily available to you when you're on staff, in addition to a really good contracted salary for traveling for 13 weeks or more, you can make some really good money. So some of the advanced practice areas or the critical areas do generally pay more than, say, long-term facilities or med-surg or outpatient clinics and so forth. That might be more of a base rate. Still, when you're doing a travel assignment, there are pieces that make your salary a little bit better. But the cardiac cath, because of the level of knowledge you need and the immediacy of the procedures, those rates can be quite high for travel nurses. So something to think about. For per diem nurses, they were one of the higher paid positions, was the cardiac cath RN. And a lot of those nurses that I worked with were, they were certified to do PICC lines. Some of them were nurse practitioners and worked in our unit part of the time, and then worked in physicians' offices part of the time. So I worked with some big talent and some very, very smart, knowledgeable people, and some really fun people too. So I thought I'd do some storytelling. In the latter part of my career, when I was a clinical manager, I used to interview nurses before they went on assignment, and then I would talk to both them and the client while they were on assignment. And a really seasoned travel nurse or really seasoned travel therapist or tech can usually maneuver, is that the right word? Can usually manage awkward, unusual, difficult, unexpected, not living up to the letter of the contract kind of situations. They usually can manage. They have savvy, they're pleasant, they're communicative, and they usually manage pretty well. Newer nurses, or maybe I would say a nurse like these times with COVID, the work is very, very hard. It's much more physical, and there's some really terrible outcomes for the COVID patients that are being admitted into the ICUs. And so I ran into nurses that for one reason or another, I haven't worked with nurses during COVID. I've been doing Travel Nurse Channel and other things. But when I was working with nurses that were on travel assignments, the kind of squirrely situations they got into tipped the scale where they weren't able to manage. And that's when I would get the phone call. So some of those things that happened are just accidents. And so probably the most vital information I can give nurses that are traveling or techs or therapists that are traveling is to communicate. Communicate with the company that has put you on your travel assignment. Communicate with your recruiter. Communicate with the people you work with, because nobody can read minds, you see. And so a lot of the calls that I would get, a lot of the frustration I would get from the client side and or from the traveler side were because somebody failed to communicate. So a situation I'm thinking of right now, I had a traveler. She was a new traveler. She was far from home. I don't remember where she came from, but she was working in California. So wherever she worked in the United States would be some distance from the West Coast. And she was working in, I think San Diego, could have been Riverside County, but she was working in Southern California in a pretty good sized facility. And she was very, very homesick. And she traveled alone. I think she had a boyfriend or a fiance, but she traveled alone. And I don't know what was going on. I think it was a big San Diego hospital that had just relocated. They just had rebuilt the hospital. And she may have been working in the older hospital. I'm not sure of, all the specifics about her assignment, but I think she called me several times for little things. I haven't met the supervisor yet. She was working nights. I haven't met the supervisor yet. I thought I would have met her. And I said, well, sometimes they're there at orientation, but when you work nights, it's difficult because their hours are going to be different. And I asked her if she knew the supervisor's name, and she didn't. So I told her I'd find that out. Anyway, as the assignment went on, she became ill. She was working about this time of the year, maybe closer to the beginning of the new year, and she got a virus or a flu or something, and she got sick. And I think the contract allowed for 2 sick days in a row, and that if there were going to be more, that she would need to see a physician or a physician assistant. She would need to, before she came back to work, if she was going to take that 3rd sick day, she was going to have to seek medical attention. So sure enough, you know, I was aware, and the client was aware, that she was ill, and she knew the rules. I think we may have even discussed it, and she just wasn't happy, and she had trouble getting well. So when I talked to her on the 3rd day, she failed to call in. So she was sick 2 days, and her schedule didn't have her back at work until, say, the 4th or 5th day. And she failed to call in on that day or follow whatever the protocol, whatever the practice was for that hospital. She didn't. And so now I get a call from a client who's unhappy that a nurse that they hired and are paying a lot of money for has not shown up for the 3rd shift. And they don't know what to do. She was good at her job. I think she was I want to say she was a neonatal intensive care nurse. I believe that's the job she did. And so now she's not only missed work. Okay, she got sick. Understandable. You call in sick. And then she knew the program. If she's going to be sick more than 2 days, on the 3rd day she would have to go see a doctor or a physician assistant and bring back a note. And anyway, she didn't call in sick on the 3rd day that she was expected at work. And I called her, and she just broke down, and she cried, and she didn't feel like she could do it. And I encouraged her to, and I asked her why she slept through. She slept through is what she said. And I said, well, then the moment you wake up, you make the call. You know, everybody makes a mistake. Everybody has days they don't feel well, but you try to repair it as soon as possible. And anyway, she never really was happy. She did get well enough. Oh, who's this? Nurse. Hi, Peter North here. Old adult film. What? No, this, I think, I'm not sure what you're saying there. Old adult film star. Anyway, so no, we're just talking about travel nursing. Anyway, so this particular nurse, because she was unhappy, it was difficult for her to get well, and we did try to help the client out to see if a per diem nurse would help while she was sick and so forth. And she did get well enough to go back to work. And okay, wrong station. Anyway, somebody is checking in. If you have any questions or comments on travel nursing or any travel healthcare assignments, that's you can check in on Facebook. We're live. We're live from 2 to 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time every Tuesday and Thursday. So that's what this is about. It's pretty boring for people that are not in the travel health industry. Anyway, that nurse did get back to her assignment, but she did not complete her assignment. And that was really unfortunate. If we could have looked at her schedule and maybe, found some days off together, but she got sick, and then she was embarrassed because she didn't call in, and the client was a little upset. But, people get over things. And I gave her as much encouragement as I could, but maybe travel nursing wasn't for her. So that's one of the unfortunate stories, Many, many good stories occur. And we were talking about this. That can lead to really even more bonuses and so forth when you extend an assignment, because so much time and effort goes into making a travel contract happen, which is usually 13 weeks. and full-time. And you know, it can be fine-tuned. There's, you know, exceptions, of course, but most travel assignments are 13 weeks, which is 90 days, which is 1/4 of your year, and usually work full-time, whether it's 8-hour, 10-hour, or 12-hour shifts. And depending on the discussions that were had prior to the contract, you may even add overtime onto that if you want to work an extra shift per pay period or an extra shift per week. That can be worked out as well. And in addition to possible completion bonuses or like a fast track assignment where they need somebody right away within a week or two, if you can do it, if the stars align, you know, if your license is good in that state and you know, all the credentials have been done and all the paperwork, all the onboarding has been done, orientation and so forth, you can even get a sign-on bonus for starting an assignment early. So so there's lots of advantages to the travel world, not just the assignment itself, with all the adventure and the new places and the good stipends, which are non-taxable money, and the good salary, and maybe the overtime, but also these bonuses that can come at the beginning or the end. All nice things that can happen when one is traveling. So, so let me tell another story. Now, this is a hearsay story, but it's really a darling story. So this is a labor and delivery story, and there are so many labor and delivery stories. Everyone varies quite a bit. Let me get a sip of my lemonade here today. Wet my whistle. Get the dust out of my nose. And wash my hands. You never know. If I forget later. So do it while I'm in the office before I leave. So this young woman, goes into labor, and it's her first baby, and she's not married, and her boyfriend is with her, and usually first labors go a little long, and this was pre-COVID. So usually if you pick one person to go into the labor room with you, that's it. You don't necessarily get all the people that you want, because some people have coaches and some people have husbands or boyfriends, some people have moms or nurse friends, and they could take turns. They could kind of rotate, particularly if it's a long labor. We're talking 20 plus hours. So anyway, so this young woman is in the labor department, gonna have her first baby, and the boyfriend is with her. And I don't think there was anybody else with her. Anyway, as the labor was progressing, he tells her, "Do you need anything? Because I really have to go to the store. Do you need anything? Because I really have to go to the store." And you know, you're not thinking straight when you're in labor. If there are any female nurses out there or male nurses that have had children with their partners, you don't think too straight when you're in labor. It's very all-consuming. And so he does go out. And when he's going out, he tells his girlfriend's labor nurse, "I want to get married right here, right now. And we didn't plan it, but I want to do it." And they thought that was terrific. And so they set up a special room, and he called her father, and he ran to the store. What he wanted to run to the store for was the ring. So I don't know. It's just the most darling story. And before that baby was born, they did get married. Is that amazing? So there's so many wonderful stories that happen in nurses' careers. Let me think of, there's so many too. I made a lot of wonderful relationships, I think, especially because there was a period during my career. Paul King is saying, "I noticed that due to COVID, this has created a serious shortage of nurses and doctors." Yes, this is true. travelers and locum tenens, and the percentages are up. I actually talked about that the other day. They're up by so much. Let's see if I grab some of my notes here. Yeah. Oh, I can't get the door open. Oh, dear. Yeah, the numbers are up, up, up. That actually, in the last several years, the need for nurses, travel nurses, and travel healthcare workers has been going up steadily over the years. I had, one of my computers is being goofy here. Otherwise, I could pull up that map. But I can't get into this computer. It's giving me a hard time. But throughout the country, some of the busier places are, yes, Mr. Paul King. That's my husband and our tech advisor here on the Travel Nurse Channel. We talked about this last week, actually. The East Coast and the West Coast, Florida, Texas, and a couple of other states, I think Oregon and Washington, the needs are tremendous. Chicago, I think, is another, Illinois, Chicago, Illinois. The need for, I gotta keep washing my hands. The need for travelers is huge. And over the last year, particularly, but the last 3 years, there have been, the travel needs have gone up by huge percentages. And in some of those areas like San Francisco, I wish I could pull up that map. It's like 100%, 150%, 300, over 360% in some areas. I think Pennsylvania was another area with a big need. So yes, the travel industry itself has grown. It's been on an upward spiral. Let's see, is that better? No, this is the side. I don't know. Up. It's an upward spiral. Okay, whatever. I'm always backwards. I think I'm going here, up. Yes, there's a bigger and bigger need for travel nurses, for travel therapists, even for travel CNAs, travel LVNs, physician's assistants, nurse practitioners, and then in the locum tenens with the physicians themselves, big needs. And I think also a little bit of leniency with some of the restrictions. You have to, if you're traveling from one state to another, usually can take 4, 5, 6 weeks to get a license. So I think that the Department of Health in most states are trying to work with the COVID crisis, the pandemic crisis, and get those licenses through much more rapidly. I know in the beginning, they were making all kinds of compensations to get retired doctors or resident doctors and so forth into the clinical setting to help out for the needs. And yeah, in addition to just an upward climb of need, COVID has made it even more so. And it's interesting. It seems to be right now with COVID that we have a big second wave. And so, that's no pun intended that I'm waving, but a second wave that is quite serious. And, the simplest things that you do are the most important thing. Good hand washing, good hand washing, thorough hand washing. Don't rush through that piece because that protects you and that protects you and that protects your patients and others. So good hand washing. Face masks, properly worn. Face shields. In most healthcare facilities, face shields are available, and that's for any splatter. So use those. And then you cannot be socially distant with a patient, but you can protect your clothes, and you can protect your mucous membranes, and you can wash. And those things, most of my colleagues and friends and people that I know in healthcare are doing fine. They're doing really, really fine. I am aware of one doctor that came down with it, but and he's fine. He was home alone there for a while, and people were bringing him food and whatnot. But he got through his 2-week or whatever. I'm not exactly sure how long it took him, but he got through it. And then my some friends on the East Coast, that healthcare professional and others, we're not. You know, the thing is, we're not sure. They contracted it early, like back in March or April of last year. So I'm not sure when their exposure happened, right? So, and it was in a family. So it was a husband and wife, and the wife, second marriage, and 2 of the wife's adult children. They all contracted it. They all had symptoms, and they all have antibodies, which is nice. So does that mean they'll never get it again? I'm not sure. You know, at least if they get it again, maybe they won't get as serious symptoms as they did the first time. The dad was the eldest in the family, or the stepdad, and he had very serious symptoms, and they were able to get him on IV fluids at home. And my friend, his wife, has been an RN for a long time, so she got an oximeter in the house, and she checked his temperature, and she made sure he got up for 1 meal a day, as lousy as he felt, and he ran high fevers and low oxygen levels, but she got him moving around. And aside from losing a bunch of weight, he recovered. So I feel like she saved his life, because at that point in New York, the outbreak was so bad that no family members could go with their family member who was being admitted. So you went all on your own, sick, with nobody there to help speak up for you. So yeah, I was looking through some of my notes to see if I had any of those percentages. But yes, Paul King, there has been a shortage of nurses, doctors, healthcare workers, and a high percentage increase request and use and need for travelers over the last several years. It just keeps going up, up, up. Don't be afraid to travel. I have all kinds of notes here. I just hang on to them because I think, oh, I'll get rid of them. You know, I use these dry erase boards, and then I'll get rid of them, and then erase them, and then that's the day I'll want them again. So I just keep piling them up. I've got a couple of dozen of them. I guess when I've used them all up, then I'll have to, I'm so itchy because I was a big old housekeeper today, digging around for decorations in my garage. All right, folks, so you have reached the Travel Nurse channel. We are here to talk to travel nurses, and we've reached tens and tens of thousands of travel nurses and those that are interested in travel. We talk about all things healthcare and travel related, and we tell stories and we share stories. I have talked to some nurses live, and I hope to talk to some recruiters live. If you're watching, or if you're a travel nurse and you're shy, maybe you could tell your recruiter about our station. They can talk too, and they can tell their stories, because there's all these sides of it. I mean, I know the nursing side of it and the clinical manager side of it, and I know the client side from all my years of working with the clients, but I don't really know the recruiter side, and I would love to know some of the experiences and stories and ongoing I don't know. It's like the variables, all the variables that can happen on a travel assignment. You know, pre-assignment, during the assignment, post-assignment. What is the percentage, for example, of nurses that extend? Most of the nurses I know that traveled would extend. Even if they could only extend a couple of weeks, they would do it. It's very advantageous from a fiscal perspective, but it's also nice if you're planning your next travel assignment in a different state to do a couple of extra weeks or, you know, an extra month where you are while that other one gets organized, and you still get to make money through the whole endeavor. Some nurses get very, very savvy at it, and they may travel solid for a whole year or a year and a half and then take their break. Because think about it, particularly if you're working in the acute setting, you work 3 12s a week. Even if they're all lumped together, right? That's 6 out of 14 days. So take 2 days to just rest, recuperate. Oh dear, I forgot to turn my phone off. Sorry about that. But you have time to go explore where you are. If you've traveled from, say, Alabama up to Chicago, big city. Oh my gosh, I visited Chicago once. I hope I have an opportunity to visit there again. Just the most exciting and pretty city. I don't think I'd want to visit it in the winter. There's a river running through it, but I mean, you get to explore. They have a Nike store that is like 4 stories. I mean, it was, and I did this, oh my gosh, 20-something years ago I visited Chicago. It was beautiful. So yeah, so say in a 2-week period, you work 6 shifts, and that's hard work. I understand that. But that's 6 days out of 14. You have 8 days to yourself to recoup, to rest, to buy groceries, to wash laundry, and to play and have an adventure in the place that you've chosen to travel. So whether it's, you know, someplace in Northern California, you've got Yosemite, you have the big, beautiful sequoia trees. You can, you know, see maybe Arizona, go to the Grand Canyon. There's nothing quite like the Grand Canyon. I've had 2 visits now. My first visit was extraordinary because I hiked into the Grand Canyon with a bunch of other women and stayed down there and explored and saw waterfalls and just extraordinary things. And then the second time was more recently that I just got to view it. And it's beautiful, absolutely a wonder of the world. So these are little adventures that that could be yours if you choose to travel, and many, many, many more. So please, people, call me, 800-737-6518, or visit us when we're live on Facebook every Tuesday and Thursday, 2 to 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Or you can email me, and we can discuss if you want to record with me and be live and tell your stories, whether you're a hiring manager, a recruiter, a recruiting company, a travel company, a nurse, a therapist, a technician. I'd love to talk to you. You have so much. You have so much in your experience or in your inquiries that will help others. So, so please give me a call. My email is Rita, R-I-T-A, at travelnursechannel.com. Rita, R-I-T-A, symbol for at, travelnursechannel.com. So I really look forward to talking to you, and I think our viewers would really appreciate it as well. And if you are a travel company, somebody that hires nurses, if you're a skilled facility, if you're an acute facility, if you're an oncology clinic or an urgent care clinic, you can sponsor. You can sponsor on the Travel Nurse Channel, and many, many, many travel workers and nurses will find you there. So consider that. Okay, I'm going to sign off because it's just about 3 p.m. And thank you, Paul, for checking in, and everybody who's viewing. And I will be back on Tuesday. We'll be closer to Thanksgiving. I probably will not broadcast on Thanksgiving, but maybe the day after. Maybe the day after. I think Thanksgiving is the 26th. And I will probably broadcast on the 27th while everybody's getting their Christmas decorations out. Okay, so wonderful to be here and to talk about all things travel nurse and travel allied. And I'll be back, and enjoy your weekend. And I think that's it for today. Thank you, everybody. I'm going to give you a commercial before we go. Bye-bye.
Travel nursing can bring you to places you've never been before. Tell us your story.